Hi, Keith here from Academy of Bass. Today's lesson is the first in the Bass Takeaway series on sight reading. And as with all of these series of lessons, I'm starting from scratch, and I'm also going to assume that you've got absolutely no prior knowledge, because that way, as you work through every lesson in the series, hopefully there won't be any gaps in your understanding. I'm going to start by looking at this 5-line system that all music is written on, and it's the music stave. Now, at the start of the stave, you'll see the bass clef. And if you look closely at that bass clef, you'll see that it's got 2 dots that sit either side of the 4th line up, and it's always written like that. The stave's usually divided into measures or bars using a series of vertical lines called bar lines. But I'm not actually going to be using any bar lines today. I'm going to be working with the blank stave. So let's look at some notes now. If we write a note on every line of the stave, the names of those notes are G, B, D, F and A. Adding notes in the spaces now, the names of those notes are A, C, E and G. So working upwards from the bottom line, we've now got G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G and A. Now, there are lots of ways you can go about learning those notes. You could just work through them note by note and learn them academically. Or you could attach a rhyme to them like good boys deserve football always, or all cows eat grass. And there are tons of other rhymes too if you want to check them out. And hopefully the methods that I'm going to go through in this lesson will give you even more options too. Now, before we can look at actually reading those notes, we need to know where to play them on the neck. And if you haven't already seen the first and second lessons in my music theory series, I'll post a link to those below. I really would suggest that you check them out. In fact, if you're really new to this, I'd go as far as to suggest that you might want to pause this lesson, go back and watch those two. They really are both short, and then come back to this because the content of those lessons will really help you out in this lesson. I'd like to add a couple of extra notes to the stave now. So starting from the G on the bottom line, we're going to write a note in the space below the stave. So working backwards from G, that note is an F. And if we add another new note from that F in the space below the stave, this next new note is going to be on the imaginary line underneath the stave. And that's shown by drawing a short line through the note head. And that's a ledger line. Now, the majority of the music that you're going to read is going to be written within the stave. But there is a lot of music that's written for bass that extends both below and above the stave on ledger lines. But the good thing about this new note, which is E, is that it corresponds to the open E string on the 4-string bass. So if you play a 4-string bass, that's the lowest note that you're going to play and read. So now we've got open E on the ledger line below the stave, we've got F in the space below the stave, and we've got G on the first line of the stave. So in preparation for this, we really need to make sure that we're confident we know where to play the notes on the neck. So we've got open E, we've got F at the 1st fret of the E string, and we're playing that with our 1st finger, and we've got G at the 3rd fret of the E string, and we're playing that with our little finger. Now, our fretting hand is going to remain in fixed position, and we're not going to watch that. We're going to keep our eyes fixed on the music. The other thing about this is that we're not working with any fixed tempo or any strict tempo, so there's no metronome and there's no drum rhythms either. The way this will work is that we'll read the first note on the stave and we won't move to the next note unless we're confident that we understand what that note is and we know where to play it. Now, of course, we're only working with 3 notes, so this is going to be quite easy, but that doesn't matter because as we work through this, we're still developing our understanding of the notes. So let's get ready with our fretting hand in fixed position. We're looking straight ahead at the music, and you should see some music on the screen, so we're going to practice this together. So the first note is on the ledger line below the stave, that's E. Then we've got the note in the space below the stave, which is F. The note on the first line, which is G. Now it's the note in the space below the stave, which is F. And the note on the ledger line below the stave, which is E. The note on the first line, which is G. The note below the stave, which is F. And finally, the note on the ledger line below the stave, which is E. Now, For the purpose of this lesson, I'm saying the notes out loud, but I'd encourage you to say the notes out loud anyway, or say them before you play them. It's all practice that's going to help reinforce your understanding of the notes. I think that's a really great way of practicing without any pressure, so that you've got the time to focus on the notes and really develop your understanding of them. I'd like to look at something now that's really going to help you work on this, so I'm going to suggest that you get some manuscript paper. If you don't have access to any manuscript paper, I'll post a link to a template that you can download. So take your manuscript paper and take a pencil and fill each line, each stave, with a series of notes. Now, if you practice one line every single day in the same way that we have without mistakes, I guarantee that in a week's time, your recognition of the notes on the stave and your understanding of the notes on the neck will be massively improved. There's a PDF for this lesson, so I'll post a link to that below. Make sure you grab it. Let me know in the comments too what you think of the lesson, and keep me posted about you practicing. Let me know how you're getting on. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification, that way you won't miss out on anything. Thanks for joining me, look forward to seeing you again, and in the meantime, happy practicing.